The Kevin Owens vs. Shane McMahon feud felt personal, as after failing to win back the United States Championship, Kevin started to grow a vengeance against Shane and would do anything to get under his skin. And over the next couple of weeks, conflict would begin to grow between the two, which would lead to a match at Hell in a Cell. And this match was crazy, entertaining, and had an ending that left everyone shocked. But before I could tell you that story, I have to tell you this story.
Shane McMahon screwed me. That's what happened.
After losing his US title match at SummerSlam, Kevin Owens comes out complaining about how McMahon has once again screwed a Canadian. Kevin enters the ring and Shane confronts him, saying he was nothing but fair as the special guest referee in the match. Kevin then brings out footage showing Shane counting the 3 while AJ's foot is on the rope. Shane, with the straightest look on his face, stares at Kevin complaining about how the title should be his. AJ, who is tired of hearing Kevin run his mouth, tells Shane to give Kevin the rematch. Shane grants the match, but then Kevin complains that he should have a special guest referee of his choosing. Shane gives him a chance to pick, but warns him that if he loses again, as long as Styles is champion, he will never get another shot. Later on that night, Kevin faced AJ for the US title with Baron Corbin as special guest referee. Deep into the match, Styles has Owen in the calf crusher. Owen contemplates tapping but decides to push through and go for the ropes. Kevin's fingers graze the bottom rope and Corbin calls for a break. AJ Styles doesn't break and Corbin pulls AJ off him. AJ and Corbin begin to argue, but Kevin pushes AJ into Corbin. Corbin, feeling disrespected, grabs AJ and yells at him. He pushes AJ back and Kevin rolls him up and Corbin goes for a fast count. AJ kicks out, but Kevin goes for it again and AJ kicks out again. Shane eventually comes out and starts complaining with Baron Corbin. While Corbin is distracted, Kevin low blows AJ and goes for the pin. Corbin counts, but at the last second, Shane pulls Corbin outside of the ring. Corbin gets pissed, takes off the ref shirt, and throws it at Shane. Shane becomes ref, and the match continues. Eventually, AJ hits Owens with a phenomenal forearm, pins him, and retains the title. While Kevin Owens' problems with AJ Styles may have ended, his ones with Shane McMahon have just begun. Because on the next episode of SmackDown, Kevin Owens is in the ring and he's complaining about the results of the match from the week before. Kevin blames Shane, saying that it's his fault he's not champion right now. Not long after, Shane interrupts Kevin and begins to recap what actually happened during the US title match. As Shane is recapping, Kevin stares him down with the angriest look on his face. Shane says it's Kevin's fault that he lost and that he's tired of hearing him complain. Kevin responds with a quick outburst of blaming Shane for his previous losses. The segment ends with Shane demanding Kevin leave the ring, with Kevin responding with signs of anger. On the September 5th, 2017 episode of SmackDown, during a segment with James Ellsworth and Carmella, Kevin Owens comes out and says he'll be their special guest referee for their match tonight. Shane McMahon quickly comes out and shuts it down. Kevin tries to get under Shane's skin by calling him an attention seeker. He follows up by saying that Stephanie is Vince's favorite child and Shane is the son he never wanted. And he does all these crazy stunts to get his dad's approval. Kevin then mentions his kids and Shane starts to show some aggression. Kevin talks about his helicopter crash and how his family would have been better off if he didn't survive, especially his kids. Shane finally snaps and begins to beat down on Kevin Owens. They quickly take the brawl from in the ring to outside the ring. Eventually, backstage officials come running out to stop him, but Shane, filled with rage, keeps beating down on Kevin Owens. Eventually, they pull him off and Shane calms down. A couple minutes later, after the brawl, Daniel Bryan meets Kevin Owens to apologize, but Kevin interrupts and says he's gonna sue the McMahons and WWE for everything they have. Later on that night, Daniel Bryan calls Shane McMahon to the ring and tells him that he has been suspended indefinitely by orders of Vince McMahon. Next week on SmackDown, Vince McMahon is in the ring with Kevin Owens and he starts roasting him. Vince says Kevin is weak for not fighting back, he has no respect for himself because he's fat, and if he files that lawsuit, he will say his 2 famous words.
Yes!
He then says, instead of a lawsuit, there'll be a match. Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon in Hell in a Cell. Kevin Owens agrees, but only if Vince agrees that if provoked, he can beat McMahon senseless. Unknown to what will happen next, Vince agrees. Then all of a sudden, Kevin headbutts Vince McMahon and Vince falls back. Vince, with blood on his forehead, manages to get up, but Kevin knocks him back down. Backstage refs come running out to help McMahon, but Kevin, with vicious intent, super kicks McMahon and sets him up for the frog splash. He hits it as the arena light shines off of Adam Pearce's bald head. He crawls toward a broken Vince as Kevin looks on with no remorse. On the September 19th, 2017 episode of SmackDown Live, Shane McMahon returns and is cutting a promo in the ring. He talks about how him and his sons had to watch a family member get beat down by a coward. Shane then condemns Kevin to a ruthless beating by his own hands, a life of pain, and a suffering at Hell in a Cell. The next week on SmackDown, with Kevin in the ring, Sami Zayn comes out and warns Kevin about the trouble he has brought upon himself ahead of his Hell in a Cell match with Shane McMahon. Kevin Owens calls Sami Zayn jealous and begins to list the accolades between the two. Sami calls Kevin Owens a walking bag of trash and that one day his day will come by doing everything the right way. Daniel Bryan then comes out and sets up a match for later that night between Kevin and Sami Zayn, which would end in a beatdown by Kevin Owens. Shane would eventually come to Sami's rescue, but Kevin would escape into the crowd. Next week on SmackDown, Shane would announce that his match with Kevin Owens is now a Falls Counts Anywhere Hell in a Cell match. Kevin and Shane would then brawl all over the arena and end in the middle of the ring with a pop-up powerbomb. With their match only 5 days away, Kevin and Shane will settle this bitter rivalry in the most dangerous structure in WWE. Hell in a Cell.
People like me don't go to hell. No, people like me go to heaven.
The match begins with Shane doing a baseball slide into Kevin Owens, who isn't even entered the cell yet. Shane begins to pummel Kevin Owens outside the ring, with punches and kicks all over his body. Kevin and Shane soon enter the cell, with Shane throwing Kevin in the ring. Shane gets on the apron, but Kevin quickly knocks him off and sends him flying into the side of the cage. Kevin throws and beats up Shane around the side of the ring. Kevin brings the beatings from outside the ring to inside and then goes for a pin, but unsuccessful. Eventually, Kevin goes for a swanton bomb at the top of the turnbuckle, but Shane reverses, regaining control of the match. After toying around with Kevin with punches and kicks, Shane has Owens on his back and sets him up for a shooting star press. Shane goes for it, but Kevin rolls out the way just in time. Kevin, seeing the opportunity, goes for a frog splash. He hits it and goes for the pin, but Shane kicks out at 2. Kevin attempts to give Shane a pop-up powerbomb, but midway through, Shane reverses into a triangle chokehold. Kevin frantically tries to escape. He does so by dragging himself and Shane to the apron. Kevin is free, but quickly gets trapped in another armbar, breaking it this time by powerbombing Shane onto steel stairs. Kevin goes for a pin, but Shane kicks out at 2. As the crowd chant, "We want tables," Kevin searches under the ring, grabs a table, and sets it up against the side of the cell. Kevin places Shane on the table, hops on the apron, and goes for a cannonball, but Shane quickly moves out the way, sending Owens flying through the table. Shane backstrokes to Owens for a pin, but Owens kicks out at 2. Shane attacks Kevin with broken pieces of the table and grabs a trash can and throws it in the ring. As Kevin crawls into the ring, Shane follows close behind. Shane sets Kevin up in the corner and places the trash can on top of him. Shane goes to the other side of the ring and hits the coast to coast. He goes for the pin, but Kevin, using his ring awareness, puts his leg on a rope, breaking the count. Shane then looks at the top of the cell and heads towards the entrance. Asking the ref to open the door, the ref doesn't comply, so Shane gets some bolt cutters and opens the door himself. Kevin and Shane eventually make their way out the cell, with Kevin having the upper hand. He beats down Shane around the ring until they get to the announcer's table. Kevin clears the announcer's table and places Shane on top of it for a frog splash. But before he jumps, he takes one good look at the top of the cell and decides to go even higher. With Kevin at the top of the cell, he looks down at a beaten Shane, preparing to jump. With his mind telling him jump, but his body saying no, he stands at the top of the cell in frustration. As Kevin thinks about what he should do next, Shane begins to climb to the top of the cage. Kevin sees what's happening and begins calling him up. With Shane and Kevin both at the top of the cell, they begin to do battle, with big body blows against the unforgiving steel, having the crowd on their feet. Eventually, Kevin gives Shane a pop-up powerbomb, sending him crashing into the steel. Kevin then looks at the edge of the cage and looks at Shane. He picks up Shane and tries to throw him off, but Shane stops him at the last second. After more back and forth action, Kevin decides to leave the top of the cell, but Shane quickly follows. They battle 10 feet above the ground. Shane begins to bash Kevin's skull against the cell until Kevin's grip is loose, and he falls back onto the announcer's table. EMTs begin to crowd around Kevin to see if he's okay, but Shane, who is back on the floor, pushes them away. Shane tries to go for the pin, but then hesitates and looks at the top of the cell. Shane drags a lifeless Kevin Owens towards the next announcer's table. As Kevin Owens' body lay on the announcer's table, Shane climbs back to the top of the cell. As Shane stands to the edge of the cell, he looks down at Kevin Owens and jumps. But out of nowhere, a mysterious man pulls Kevin Owens out of harm's way, leaving Shane to fall to his doom. As EMTs rush over to a fallen Shane McMahon, the mysterious man is revealed to be Sami Zayn. As everyone stands in shock and confusion, Sami pulls on an exhausted Kevin over Shane McMahon's body, with the ref counting the pin, giving Kevin Owens the victory. Shocked at what he's just done, Sami begins to slowly walk away. The show ends with Kevin Owens being carried to the back by refs and EMTs, and Shane being carried off in a stretcher. After this match, Sami Zayn will begin to tag along with Kevin Owens, constantly giving Shane and Daniel Bryan problems. Eventually, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn will face Shane McMahon and returning Daniel Bryan in a tag team match at WrestleMania. But that is a story for another time.